Today on TD Jakes.
I feel trapped within the marriage.
1 minute I had a great husband, and the next minute I'm like, I don't know who this person is.
Today we're going to talk about where the rubber meets the road at home. The only thing wrong with your marriage is the absence of your presence.
Wow.
And later,
She is a Grammy-nominated singer. She still has marital problems. I don't want to lose my marriage. You're not losing it, you're giving it away. We tell you every time we do this thing, we said for better or for worse. I want you to stop being his mama. Don't nobody know how to heal your woman like you. And this is all you need to succeed. Sit down, I'm not through with you. Today, we are going to have a conversation. He has disappeared. You can stop this. Are you sorry? I'll tell you one thing. It's worth fighting. Look at that. Look at that. Look at who's cheering for you. The village is with you. Woo, woo. And thank you for joining us today. We've got an exciting day. We're going to really talk about where the rubber meets the road at home in terms of relationships and how we navigate or don't navigate through love and happiness. One of the reasons I wanted to do this show is to talk about what's on your mind. If you're thinking it, I want to talk about it. From all the emails and Facebook messages, it's clear the number one thing on your mind is the one laying in the bed next to you or not laying in the bed next to you or off falling out with you fighting about something. Unfortunately, I can't say I'm surprised. The truth of the matter is, in fact, according to a recent article in the Huffington Post, 25% now of married people say they are no longer in love with their partner. And 15% wish they had married someone else. My first guest says she feels trapped in a miserable marriage. Take a look at what she had to say.
10 years ago, I married the man of my dreams. Brian and I lived a perfect life with our 2 beautiful children. Life was a fantasy come true. I threw myself into being a good mother and a loving wife. Everything was perfect. But it all changed when my husband got hurt and lost his job. It was devastating financially. We had no choice but to sell our home and move in with his family. Brian took it really hard. He fell into a deep depression and we both drifted apart. So far that we separated and were unfaithful to each other. Now we are back together trying to rebuild, but the ghosts from the past keep haunting us and we feel trapped in our marriage.
Please welcome Tiffany and Brian. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Tiffany, trapped is a strong word. Why do you say you feel trapped in your own marriage?
Right now I feel trapped because I don't know where to go. We started off beautifully. House, cars, beautiful children. We wanted for nothing. We ended up moving to Florida. And it was great there. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. And then he got hurt on his job. And with him being the breadwinner, I was hopeful that he would be able to get back, fairly quick. But that didn't happen. So much so that, we couldn't handle our lifestyle anymore. And we had to sell our home and come back to New Jersey and move in with my in-laws.
How devastating was that for you?
Excuse me. I feel trapped within the marriage. I feel like I've been violated. Our trust is gone. And once a woman steps out, it's kind of just over. There's no forgiveness there. You just move on. I definitely feel that if you were truly in love and truly there for me, there would have been some things that would have happened before you decided to be unfaithful.
There was. It's just that you pick and choose what you want to remember. Moving into his parents' house, it felt like he reverted back to being a teenager. and he started just coming and going whenever he pleased and left me there with the kids. And he wasn't there emotionally. I mean, one minute I had a great husband, best friend, and the next minute I'm like, I don't know who this person is.
Well, I'm sorry that I did fall into a steep depression. I am used to being a man, and because of the injury, I was not able to provide and not able to live our normal lifestyle. We both kind of felt out of place.
I understand how that affected you because up until then, you all were just flying high. I want to know what happened to you on the inside when you lost your job.
I felt worthless. I felt not good enough. Basically, everything that I've worked to amass was just taken away from me.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a heating, air conditioning, refrigeration mechanic, and I injured my back, so I was not able to physically perform my job.
I get that. I totally get it. And I got it when I read it. I really understand it. I guess being a guy, too, I understand how much of our self-esteem is predicated on what we do. And when we don't have anything to say that we do, we're lost. When you say she wasn't there for you when you were down, it's because you wanted her to respond to that how?
I would appreciate if she would have got a job or, just...
What was wrong with you getting one?
Well, I guess I was stuck because I wanted to go back into my trade.
The problem here, though, that I want you to understand, you are angry with her for not reacting to your crisis properly. You want grace to cover you while you collapse, but you extend no grace to her for not reacting the way you wanted.
Amen.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Now, I agree she may not have responded the way you thought she ought to respond, but by the same token, you didn't respond to losing your job the way she expected you to respond. Right. So you're angry with each other for the same thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay?
That's absolutely.
Exactly.
You understand? You say this is a trial reconciliation.
Yes.
And one of the things, as somebody who's been married 33 years, we have never thrown around the D word, because when you start throwing around the D word, you will get whatever you say.
Absolutely.
Divorced.
Absolutely.
Okay? This on again, off again, we're gonna try this. This is trial. I'm upset. I don't know whether this is gonna work. You're playing with dynamite.
Right.
And if you continue to play with it, you're gonna get it. And I think, and I'm conflicted when I see you, and when I read, part of you says, I'm on the verge of walking away. Another part of you says, I'm so desperate to get this together, I'm willing to come on TV to get some help with this. Those are conflicting ideas, because if you really didn't want to be together, you don't need me.
That's very true.
Let me ask you a question. In your heart of hearts, you do have a deep amount of love for her. And it's not that you don't love her. You're angry with her. We've already talked about you having trouble forgiving her. But down beneath all of that anger, you deeply love her. Is that love reaching you?
It reaches me, and I feel it. But then I stop myself because I'm conditioned that the bottom is going to fall out.
Okay, now, we're getting someplace. It don't look like it. We're getting someplace. This is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. Let me stir this up. You don't feel safe to love him.
Right. I feel he's going to take that love away, or that he's not going to appreciate my love.
Sweetheart, how can he appreciate what you're not giving him?
I give him love. I'm nurturing by nature. I think that I give you love. Do you feel it?
You feel it?
Do you feel it?
Yes, because I'm still here. If I wasn't receiving anything, I think I would have walked away by now.
I feel myself kind of pulling the reins back.
Because you're afraid. You're afraid of what?
Being hurt and being disappointed.
You're already hurt. You're already disappointed. Why not take the risk? It's not like if you don't express it, then you won't get hurt. It hurts to hold it. It hurts to hide it. It hurts to care and not say anything. You're torturing yourself. There is no reason in the world that this can't be reconciled beyond the two people sitting right here. Okay? You can make this work if you want to, or you can throw it away if you please. You have no real reason here why this can't be worked through. If you stop holding your love hostage as punishment, and I'm going to say one other thing to you that's really important, and we'll get back to you later. Every time you have hurt each other, the violation has resulted from one of you leaving them alone. The only thing wrong with your marriage is the absence of your presence. Coming up, R&B singer Selena Johnson shares her story when we return. I'll be back in a minute.
Coming up next.
I had to work us back by myself.
So you feel single,
I feel single,
unsupported,
alone, and
unsafe.
And later,
You're missing a great moment to be the hero right now. You just like botching it real bad. And we're back talking to couples who feel they're trapped in a miserable marriage and are looking for the tools they need to make the marriage whole again. My next guest is a Grammy Award-nominated R&B soul singer, songwriter, and actress, but she still has marital problems, like many of you. Take a look at this. She's a Grammy-nominated recording artist who shared the stage with some of the top names in the music industry. But Selena Johnson says her biggest accomplishment is her role as a wife and mother. She married the love of her life, former NBA player Kiwan Garris, 8 years ago, and had 2 children. She says life was great. But when Kiwan retired, their relationship soured. They tried to rev up their love life on the TV show Marriage Boot Camp.
One of the problems that we have in our relationship is intimacy, romance.
But that didn't work. And now they say things have gotten worse and they're locked in a miserable marriage. And she's here today because she says that show just touched the very surface of her problems that she and her former NBA player husband, Kiwan Garris, are having. They just have so much more work to do, but we're gonna work it out right here with The Village. Are you with me? Yeah. Please welcome Selena. Come on out, Selena. Welcome, dear. Good to have you. Selena, would you tell me, why are you here today? I know you've gone through a lot of things. You've been on other programs. You're really trying to make this thing work. What brought you to me?
well, I'm tired. I'm dead tired.
The boot camp seemed like it went pretty deep.
It did. It was very, very stressful, and it went deep into the structure of who we are individually. But we're here because we want to know what to do about things that are happening with us together that we just don't have the answers to, and they're pushing us to a very dangerous edge.
Those things have become so deep that you were on the verge of filing for divorce.
That is correct.
So when you say you're at a breaking point, I want to understand some of those things and how they've affected you.
Kiwan retired like 5 years ago, and it wasn't because he wanted to. He was injured. And so it was hard for him to get a job playing basketball. And I had to pick up at 6 months pregnant and get back on stage. And I watched us lose, everything. House was taken away. I watched cars go away. But then I was on the stage at 38 weeks, 39 weeks pregnant, all the way up until it was time. I had to work us back by myself.
So you feel single?
I feel single.
Unsupported?
Alone, and
unsafe?
And tired.
Financially vulnerable? You had to go out there and get it as if there was nobody there. And so what you wanted was for him to do what?
I wanted him to say, I don't care what it is, I'm gonna do what I have to do to take care of this. That's what I want him to say.
It seems like you were looking for the hero to stand up at him, and instead he kind of crumbled.
He's a great dad. And he's not the kind of guy that will run out on me or cheat or any type of foolishness like that. It's almost like a laziness. I assume that maybe he went through a depression that he just didn't want to talk about, but how can I be with you and how can I get through this if you don't talk to me about what's going on? And then it just looks like you just want me to take care of and do everything. And maybe, I lash out on him in the wrong way, and maybe that's what makes him shut down. But
is that a maybe, or is that a reality that you put a maybe in front of because you're unwilling to correct it?
I do want to correct it.
Okay, Nick, you're angry with him for doing the same thing that you're doing. He's acting out of his feelings. So are you. They're just different feelings. His feelings become apathy and indifference. Yours becomes anger and verbalizing that anger. Both of you have to resist to some degree the level of walking in your feelings and bring your best self to the table, because this is a fight that only your best woman and his best man can win. I want to go a little bit deeper into this. Why do you have this need to both protect him and blame him? He's a good husband. He's a good father, but he's irresponsible. And I'm upset with him. You're angry with him and in the same breath protecting him all at the same time.
When you put it like that, I have come into such a position of mothering him on a lot of levels. And I almost did it then. I almost said, he's not a baby.
Yeah, see, you do it all the time.
There are a lot of dynamics with his family and people that have, done things to him, and him with the lack of fathering and the lack of parenting and his upbringing. I feel protective of him, but then I get upset. I get angry with him because I just need his help, Jesus. Please.
Hallelujah.
Help
Glory
me,
to
God.
God. Thank you, Jesus. Okay.
I need his help, God.
Couple of things I want to tell you real quick, and then we're going to get him out here and we're going to do some work. One thing, you'll never nag him into change. Okay? You'll never make him stronger pointing out his weaknesses. If you start showing him his strengths, it will outweigh underlining his weaknesses. Okay? More to come when we return.
This week on TD Jakes.
I'm speaking to former NBA superstar Vin Baker about his battle with alcohol addiction and losing his $100 million fortune.
I had no money, no phone calls. I just looked at myself and said, I need some help.
If I would have knew that graduating from college, I would have a $155,000 bill, but I never would have won.
Are you the most angry about the debt or the deception? By definition, a miracle is an event that cannot be explained by natural or scientific laws.
I definitely don't have fear of death.
I saw my great-grandmother.
I was given some information about my son's coming death.
The peace that happens when you're transcending is an amazing feeling.
This week.
One side of the room had roses and strawberries and chocolates and pillows and all that good stuff. And then the other side of the room said roommate. That side is like a sore thumb. When I tell you I hate that side of the room. Our bed is so pretty. Look how pretty the bed is.
I tried to do this for you for your birthday and you shot me down.
Wow.
Let him tell it.
That was a clip from We's Marrige Boot Camp, where my guest, R&B singer Selena, and her former NBA player husband, Kiwan, tried to get some counseling to help resolve issues in their marriage. We've been talking to Selena because she says that the show only touched the surface of their problems, and she says she's ready to file for divorce. Selena, you have 2 kids. What do you think splitting up would do to those children? You couldn't even look at that picture of your child and say divorce in the same breath without tears welling up in your eyes.
Well, I don't want to lose my marriage or my family.
You're not losing it, you're giving it away.
I don't want to
You're not losing it. You're not losing it. That's the amazing thing. I've dealt with people who've lost their mind and the person had a nervous breakdown or somebody took their man away. Nobody's taking him. You're tossing him. Your only real allegation here is I'm tired. I raised 5 kids. You don't think I didn't get tired? I lived in a house with no lights and no water and had to pull myself up by my bootstraps. You think I didn't get tired? You don't win because you didn't get tired. You win because you fight back. Well, let's see if we can try and keep the family together. Please welcome Selena's husband, Keewan. Boy, come on out here. We got some work to do. How you doing?
All right, how you doing?
Good to see you. So what's going on, man?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, you been back there listening at this?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
It was tough.
Yeah, but Bishop, I played basketball for 15 plus years professionally, and you know, retiring, it was like, all right, this is it, and man, it was devastating and it was hard, and having her go out and have to do things that I should have been doing.
So, okay, I think that you had a vision that brought you to the NBA, but not a vision if something went wrong.
True, definitely true.
I think that the fact that there's not a strong father figure in your life,
True.
that you don't know how to play the role as a man in the house because you never got a script as a boy.
True.
I think you are lost in space.
Definitely.
Because the game is gone and you can't find a model to figure out how you ought to be.
That's true.
And I bet, I'll gamble, that you have a fair amount of resentment because you want some things from her in the middle of your crisis that she doesn't seem to be sympathetic to.
Yes, definitely.
I'm doing pretty good.
You're doing real good.
That's what I thought.
You're doing good. Yeah, you did real good on that one.
So you're feeling emasculated. You've lost your career. You don't know where you're going. You find yourself in a critical situation, and you got baby mama drama on top of it. You've gone from $300,000 down to $50,000 a year. How's that affected your self-esteem?
I didn't feel good about, the income because I always knew that Selena wanted more.
It brings us to this point that you don't feel like you have the leverage that you used to have, and I want to know, in the 5 years that have gone by, have you had enough time to develop a strategy for the second half of your life? Because I don't think that this is really about her as much as it is about you. Not having a strategy, not having a pattern, not having a vision. And I think you've lost confidence in yourself. And I see pain all up in your face. And it's been for a long time. It goes all the way back to your childhood.
Yep.
And the nightmare's coming back up again. And the little boy in you is crying out for help. And you can't find your way. And her nagging at you adds to the frustration. Am I right?
Yep.
Do you see his face? Because in those red eyes that are wet is a little boy who is scared to death and traumatized. If you move wrong, it's not that you're going to lose your marriage. You could lose him altogether. Your boo is drowning. And to say you feel like his mama, I don't care if you have to put on an apron and walk around and act like Aunt B. If you love this joker right here, you better go get him, because he's in trouble. I'll be back in a minute. Check me out.
After the break,
You got name, you got reputation, you've been on TV, you got skills, you got friends, you got contacts. You got way more to work with than I did. I had a lawnmower. We're back and we're talking with Selena and Kawan, and we're working on something here, and I want to get back into it because I think it's very, very important. I want to help you find yourself. And I think you've been mamaed to death, and I think you need to hear a man talk to your head.
True.
I think you need to understand that just because you fell down does not mean that you cannot get up. I think you need to understand that it is your responsibility to get a strategy for what is going to happen, and she is not the strategy. You cannot go back to being a little boy because you got hurt being a man. Okay? I want you to understand that your job does not completely define you. I want you to understand that your income does not completely define you. That you have more to offer her than money. That your presence is valuable. That your survival is a necessity, that your creativity is endless, and that nothing is impossible to you if you believe. Nothing. You are one idea away from the $300,000 you lost. You are one idea away from the $1 million you were gonna make. And you don't have to grab a ball to do it. Because that big ball in between your ears, I want you to work that thing. I want you to work that thing, okay? He needs your support, and I know you are tired. I know you are tired, but this is not about work. This is not about money. What I see in his eyes is not about dollar signs. I see a guy who is screaming inside those eyes, who is drowning, who is in trouble. And the tragedy is, you love him. I know you love him. But we warn you all about this. We tell you every time we do this thing, we say it for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do we part. It's not like you walk into it and we didn't tell you. It's in the contract, plain as day, that everything may change, that cutie pie may end up with one leg, that gorgeous may end up on a kidney machine. You can say whatever you want to, it happens every day. That you're not exempt from having cancer or diabetes, anything can happen. And the moment things start to happen, you say, I didn't sign up for this, I'm tired. So what? So what? So what? This is a moment to define what having a good woman is. Okay? Because if you throw him away, and he survives the fall, some other good woman will brush him off, put a suit on that joker, and show him what's down inside of him, okay? Now, the problem with the two of you is that you keep attacking each other rather than the issue. If you make the issue the enemy, you can win this fight. You understand what I'm saying? Wouldn't it be crazy for both of you to put your heads together and strategize how you're gonna make the next 10 years amazing, rather than fussing about the last 10 years that can't nobody change. You can't change it, you can't fix it, you can't repair it, you can't stop it. Throw it away, get rid of it. It is hindering you for getting a strategy forward. If you gang this problem, there are people with way less than you that went further than that. You got name, you got reputation, you've been on TV, you got skills, you got friends, you got contacts. You got way more to work with than I did. I had a lawnmower. I had a lawnmower and started digging ditches and putting in gas lines, so it's hard for me to feel sorry for you. My lights was off and my water was off. This is America. Let me tell you something. If you get together and you start working together, it's simple, but it's true. A house that is divided against itself shall not stand. If you come together in one place with one accord and make the issue the enemy and say, how are we gonna whip this baby? I can do this while you get ready for that. We can come together, you can get on one team. This guy came from the team world. He's a team player. All he knows is team. He can't find a teammate. I want you to put on your big girl panties and grow up. I want you to stand up straight and put your backs up against each other. In fact, get up right now. Get up. Put your backs up against each other. And this is all you need to succeed. The reason you're tired, madam, is that you don't feel like you have anybody who's got your back. And the reason you can't get up, sir, is that you don't feel like you got a woman who's got you covered while you get your act together. And both of you are wrong. If you just cover each other's back, now you know she's out there doing everything she can do to make it happen, so you gotta make it as easy for her to do what she's got to do as she can. Don't nobody know how to heal your woman like you. Don't nobody know what she needs when she comes off the road, when she comes in at night, to make her feel like she is valued by your presence. You know what to do. Get your A game out. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
All right. I want you to stop being his mama. And when he comes to you with a problem, I want you to say, I don't know, baby, what we gonna do? I want you to play deaf, dumb, and blind. And I want you to say to him, I don't know what we're gonna do. Whatever you decide, I got your back. I got your back. Sit down. I'm not through with you. Can you feel what I'm talking to you about? Do you feel the strength in how I switched that around? I took your same situation and brought you together as a team, which you are used to fight. And you got a strong woman, and you got a tough woman. But you also got a woman that needs some direction. And you know what she wants you to say? This is what we're gonna do, baby. You see that? Yeah. This is what we're gonna do. You see how them eyes lit up? I want you to walk in the house. I want you to get away and get your head clear and think about what you're going to do. And I want you to walk in the house and I want you to say, let me tell you, girl, what we're going to do. Yes, we're going to be out of this in a minute. I want you to encourage her. Okay. She's not tired. She's discouraged. Mm-hmm. Because she has given all of her courage away and trying to encourage you. She gave all her courage to you. And now her courage doesn't seem to be working on you, so now she is discouraged. She's not out of love. She's not out of finesse. She's not out of grace. She's not out of attraction. She loves you. She's discouraged. Now I want you to encourage her by letting her see that what she tried to give you, and it wasn't always the right way, and sometimes she was nagging when she should have been building because she doesn't know how to do it, but she wants to do it. Right. I want you to get the meat out of it, throw away the bones, and let her know, I got you, I'm recovering. Lazarus is coming out the grave. Lazarus is coming out of the grave. Roll the stone away. Lazarus is coming out of the grave. I want to know how you feel about what I said.
I feel you're right. I was always like, as soon as she say something to me or any kind of come behind me or anything, I was like, okay, I'm shutting down. I don't want to hear anything she had to say because it's not helping me.
I want to talk to you about shutting down. I've got more to do with Kiwan and Selena. We're going to fix this thing. If you're struggling with a similar situation, I'm coming back in a minute. You won't want to miss this.
After the break.
I fell in love with his heart. When he stopped fighting from his, he broke mine.
Woo! I wish I'd have wrote that in a book somewhere. I've asked Tiffany and Selena to sit down and talk to me. Ladies, you both have similar situations. You heard what we were sharing earlier. What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
I am overwhelmed with the information because it's like Bishop is so right. Our issues came from when we decided to separate and not have each other's back, but we're scared. I am scared because I like to call him my little angry elf because he has a temper. And so he could be great and wonderful. And then the next minute, recently, about a month ago, he burned my journal. in the fire pit, like he ripped all the pages out and burned my journal. And when he's angry with me, he will do that.
Do you realize that men get angry when you out-talk them? That your tongue is your weapon and that you can win the battle and still lose the war? The right word spoken by a good woman in a bad situation can make a man fly. I swear it can. I swear it can. If you would love your husbands like you love your sons, we could stand. You know how you are about your children, come hell or high water?
Right.
I'm down for you. Well, most of us had that with our mothers. And then we marry you. And we watch you give it to your children. And this is what I want you to understand. I'm not blaming you for where they're broken, because they were probably broken in some way when you got them. I'm telling you how to minister to the brokenness without emasculating the patient. Okay? If you got a man that life has beaten and he comes home to a woman holding a whip, don't be angry when he looks beat down.
Right.
I want to know what you're thinking, because I gave you a whole lot. I know your head's probably spinning.
When you stood us up and put us back to back, and when you said things like, she needs to know that you have her back, if he just said it's gonna be all right, immediately there was a weight off of me. I don't want all of the responsibility.
No,
I want him to take over sometimes, you know?
Right.
That's the most valuable thing that we could ever have gotten as a couple in life, and I thank you so much for that. But I just want you to know, I don't love my husband for anything material. I fell in love with his heart. And when he stopped fighting from his, he broke mine.
Wow. Hold on. That line is so strong it almost knocked me out my chair. Woo! I wish I'd have wrote that in a book somewhere. That sounds like a T.D. Jakes line for sure. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back.
No, thanks.
That was emotional.
Well, sorry, but
When he stopped fighting for his, he broke mine.
he broke mine. The problem is, if I'm out on the road, I need you to be like I was when you was working and take and flip it. You know, we as a team. That's why when you said team, it almost took me out, because I tell him all the time, you ain't my teammate. We ain't on the same. I tell him all the time, and that's why I was just so glad you said that, because I know that it's gonna resonate with him.
It's going to resonate. I think it's really going to resonate. Your husbands are hungry for information. They're looking at me like, tell me, woman, tell me. Because I speak man. We speak different languages. I speak man. Yeah.
I want to be on the same
We're
page.
on the same team, so let's work together.
And then if you talking to your mom and she's talking a certain type of way about me, or whoever else in your family, I want you to be Team Selena. And if I'm wrong, come to me later and say, well, you know you was off the chain and get me then. But in the world, I want us to be one in the world.
And this is what I want you to say. I want you to express the same thing a different way. I just love it when you stand up for me. I love it when you, no, listen, I just love it when you stand up for me. Those times that you come to my rescue, and even though you might come home and get me later, I love it when you stand up for me. I took the same thing and made it positive. Yep. You want to be effective. If what you're doing isn't working, don't keep doing it. The reason I want you all to be here and really stay engaged, because I'm really using their marriage to show you yours, your marriage to show them theirs, and both of your marriages, so that people all over the world can say, oh, I'm going to try that when I get home. I picked up something today. Do you get it? Coming up next, we'll reunite our couples and see what the village has to say. Welcome back, friends. We're talking with couples trapped in miserable marriages. I think we made some progress. Tiffany, I want to go back to you for just a second, because I wanted to be sure that you're getting your questions answered and you're getting your needs met.
I feel like I have defended and stood up for and fought for my marriage and my family for 11 years. between the naysayers and just, you know, my parents, family members. You know, I just go into attack mode. And sometimes I feel like, you know, that's not reciprocated.
I do typically try to avoid.
It's funny how you knew you were supposed to say something right there.
Well, eye contact helps.
Yeah. How about that?
Many of the naysayers or the people that don't want our marriage to work, I don't even give that a whole lot of space in my brain until I'm forced to confront it.
Because he leaves it up to me to defend and fight and...
Yeah, let me translate to you what that she is trying to say. The woman is trying to tell you she needs a hero. And your silence what you call not avoiding confrontation, for her, it's not standing up for her and leaving her to fight the battle alone, okay? The conversation that you missed that the women had is that even if they're wrong, defend them in the face of the person who's attacking them and then straighten it out when you get home. That way they feel you have got their back. Let me tell you something. The tears running down your wife's face says, this is big for me. You're missing a great moment to be the hero right now. You just like botching it real bad. Your woman is crying on national, come on. Jesus. Now we've got some questions in the village, and I want to hear what those questions are as we begin to take on the universal questions. Some of you have comments and some of you have questions. I want to hear what you've got to say. If you've got something to say, I want you to jump on Facebook right now and let me hear from you, because I'm sure some of y'all got something to say about this stuff we're talking about up in here, right? Yes, sir.
Bishop, my question is, how do you deal with individuals that have confession without obligation, meaning they quickly say they're sorry, but they won't be too quick to say that they were wrong?
I think I'm sorry means absolutely nothing if you don't know what you're sorry about. Okay, and here's the challenge. Forgiveness is something that we do for ourselves. We forgive people not because they're innocent. We forgive them because we don't want to be attached to what you did. Okay, so it's a way of disannulling my contact, because as long as I'm angry with you, I'm still connected to you. Okay, so forgiveness is something we do for us. Trust is not our responsibility. Trust is the responsibility of the perpetrator. It is your responsibility to build back my trust. And in order to build back my trust, one, I need to know that you know how bad you hurt me, that you really do get it, that you know what was wrong about it to me, that you mean to stop doing it, and that you are consistent long enough that we have a new normal so that I can feel safe to invest my feelings back in you. And don't chastise me for checking up on you initially, because you are the one who taught me not to trust you in the first place. We'll be right back after this.
Tomorrow on TD Jakes.
I'm speaking to former NBA superstar Vin Baker about his battle with alcohol addiction and losing his $100 million fortune.
I had no money, no phone calls. I just looked at myself and said, I need some help.
And we're back. When we started talking to both of you, you were kind of on the edge of, is this gonna work or not? Are we divorcing? And the answer is?
No, we're not divorcing.
No, we're not divorcing.
He's not getting rid of me that.
He's not getting rid of you that easy. That's good news. Let's give both of them a round of applause. just so romantic. It's just so, everybody say, oh. I want you to understand that there are no perfect relationships. There are no perfect people. Whatever is wrong with your spouse, there's something equally as wrong with you. Find a way to get around all the traffic and all the scars of life and put it all together. And when right hands do lemons, make yourself some lemonade. God bless you. Take care.
Today on TD Jakes.
My face was burning. I could feel the flesh burning off.
The day of the funeral was my birthday.
And unfortunately, she didn't make it.
We're talking about people who remained unbroken.
Within a minute, I was blind. I couldn't see anymore.
What has happened to my child?
I grieve continuously my former self.
Their hearts are broken, but their spirit is strong. Today, we are going to have a conversation. He has disappeared. You can stop this. Are you sorry? Oh. I'll tell you one thing. It's worth fighting. Look at that. Look at that. Look at who's cheering for you. The village is with you. Woo, woo. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to a very powerful show today. Take a look at this picture of Christy Sims. She is a beautiful 42-year-old single mother of two who had everything to look forward to in life. Christy lives in a beautiful suburb of Atlanta, where she was pursuing a master's degree in counseling.
I felt like it was something I was called to do. I love helping people. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives.
Beautiful and smart, she loved music and dancing, and of course, her children.
My son Christopher, he's awesome. My daughter Elon, she's like a little lady. My kids mean everything to me. I've always wanted children, and I have two of the best kids in the world, and they're the reason I get up every single day.
Then a few years ago, Christy met Andrew Fordham. She was excited to see what their future held. This is what Christy looks like today. Christy was literally burned alive after her boyfriend threw industrial-grade sulfuric acid on her face and body. Here's how it happened.
Andrew and I were together for several years. I cared about him, but I always had this inner feeling of doubt. He became extremely possessive. I just decided that it wasn't a healthy relationship for me, and he knew it. And he calls out to me, babe, bring me a towel. And there's some water on the floor, bring me a towel. And I just stopped in my tracks because the whole scene looked odd to me. He's standing in a flood of water. He's holding a yellow bowl. Whatever's in that bowl, he takes it and he just throws it in my face. My eyes were burning, my face was burning. It felt like I was in an inferno. I could feel the flesh on my body burning off. It feels like a zillion knives stabbing every inch of you. It felt like I was just sitting in a fire.
Andrew called 911.
Henry County 911, what's up?
Yes, I need an ambulance.
What's going on?
My girlfriend was just speaking drain cleaner.
Claiming it was an accident.
Is she bleeding from anywhere?
I can't have, she's screaming. Please, get somebody else.
Ask her, what is she complaining of?
It's burning her skin.
She fell on his Drano?
Yes.
Yeah.
Her face was literally melting.
Got Drano all over it.
She was in agony for over 20 minutes before paramedics took her to the hospital, where she would spend the next 2 months in a coma, hanging between life and death. Since the attack, Christy has endured 13 surgeries to repair her face, arms, and body. She is here today to share her story to inspire others to listen to their instincts, especially when it says something is very wrong. She is the embodiment of survival. She is the definition of courage. She is unbroken. Please welcome Christy Sims. Christy, how are you?
In this moment, I'm doing okay.
Take your time. What are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling overwhelmed because watching that video, it brings back the entire past 2 years.
Yes. It's been a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's a journey that I'm constantly reliving. But a lot of it is therapeutic for me.
You woke up in the hospital after 2 months in a coma. What were your first thoughts when you came to?
At that time, when I first woke up, I did not know what I looked like. I knew that something horrible had happened to me, but I didn't know how bad it was. I wondered what was going on with my children.
Right.
And I found out soon after that he had not been charged. And so, I began to fight. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to use my arms again. I couldn't see. I was blind for the first 4 months. And so I just started fighting. I went through a period of rehab where I started fighting just to heal so that I could tell my story, so I could get out and be able to tell my story.
Did you really know your story at that point? I mean, was everything a blur as to what happened and what caused it? Had you processed it yet?
I didn't find out until I woke up from that coma. I heard that I had said it was an accident, that he had said it was an accident, but it wasn't. I knew that it wasn't an accident. It happened to me so fast. I knew something wrong had happened to me, but I couldn't put all the pieces together.
4 months you couldn't see, okay? Been in a coma for several months.
Yes.
Underwent all kinds of surgeries, life-threatening surgeries. First time you looked in the mirror and you got to inspect yourself, what did you think?
It wasn't me. I looked like a monster. I've had 13 surgeries. On that day, I didn't look like me. It looked like somebody else. My left eye was 2 inches lower than my right eye. My entire face was burned to the 3rd degree. I couldn't even see my nose at the time. What you're looking at right now is a miracle. God's divine power, to be honest with you. But on that day right there, I thought that my life was over. My family kept mirrors away from me for a long time. And when I saw my face that day, it was a nurse that didn't know. She hadn't gotten the instructions, and I wasn't supposed to see my face. And I became a little hopeless, and I seeped into a depression, a deep depression during that time.
I can imagine. So when you went into that depression, was part of that pain, how do I resume normalcy? How do I get my life back? At that point, your children hadn't seen you.
No.
The first time your son, I believe it was, walked into the room to see you.
My son, Christopher, came to see me while I was still in the hospital at rehab. And I don't think they gave him a full understanding of how bad it was. He came into the room, he was extremely brave. And he told me, he said, "Mom, you don't look as bad as I thought it was." Making me feel good, made me feel a little bit better.
When I read your story, I was struck by his courage. The fact that he would override his natural instinct and reach out and be courageous toward you. And then I realized he got that courage from you.
Yes, yes.
Your daughter, it was more difficult.
My daughter, if you can imagine, I have 2 children, and those 2 children are very different. Okay. My son is very much like me. He's he processes things on the inside. He, tends to put on a brave face. My daughter is more emotional. She wears her emotions on her sleeve, and whatever she's feeling is going to come out. She's also a girl, so she attaches her beauty and identity to mine.
Right.
So just the thought of her mother being disfigured, then who am I and who do I look like now, And so it took a long time to see my daughter. In fact, my children had to go through counseling before my daughter could even be around me. She saw me one time, and it was so dramatic for her that we just decided that we were not going to do that again for a while. until at least I had a couple of surgeries.
When you saw her reaction, how did you feel as a mother?
It broke my heart. I felt guilty. I felt totally responsible for this, even though I didn't do this to myself. You know, I said to myself, how could you be with somebody that will put you in a position where you have to hurt your children to this level? Anytime your children are hurt, you take responsibility. I took responsibility.
So as deep as the scars were on the outside, they were also pretty deep on the inside.
Because it didn't just affect me. My mother is heartbroken. My father. I have a big brother. I'm the baby. You know, so when you hurt somebody, especially somebody that is as loved and connected to community and family as I am, you hurt everybody around them, you know?
Christy's mother, Elaine, is here. Thank you for being here, Elaine. Thank you for exemplifying a mother's love and how you have taken care of Christy and been there for her as her mother. When you walked into this situation and you experienced it and the day-to-day care, practically living in the hospital, sleeping by the bedside, when you got her calm, what's going on in your head?
I was heartbroken, I was devastated, I was hurt, I was mad, I was all these things, you know. But I knew that I had to be strong for Christy. That was important, that I be strong for her. And so I would go to the hospital and spend as much time with her as I could and read scriptures. Every day I would say, the blood of Jesus washes over Christy. The blood of Jesus washes over Christy. Christy will live and not die and declare the works of the Lord. And the doctors had told me that the burns would get worse and worse and worse before they would even get better. And I actually experienced those burns getting worse. And as I would go up to the hospital, go into her hospital room, my knees were just shaking because I'm thinking, oh my God, what will my child look like today? It was just excruciating. But I knew that I had to put my trust in God.
Her skin originally, it was like leather to touch. It's very hard. When you, as a mother, you birthed her, you dressed her, you clothed her. Right. The first time you touched her and you felt the entire texture of her face turn into something totally unfamiliar, how did you process that? As a child, Christy and I was always in agreement that she looked pretty. Now my daughter has been damaged. She's been injured. When you reached up and started touching your own body and everything that is familiar to you has changed.
It's not just about somebody taking away my pretty face. They took away the comfort that I had in my own skin. I'm sitting here with you right now, and they've made me all up, and they've made me look pretty, but I'm uncomfortable, you know? And so it looks like leather, and it feels like leather. You talk about your self-perception. I wondered, when you sleep, when you dream, do you see yourself the way you used to look in your dreams? I do. So every time you wake up, you go through this again? I've lost a child before. The best way that I can describe it is when you lose somebody that you love and you wake up every day and you say, oh, I woke up and that was just a dream. They didn't die. They're still here. Well, I wake up every day and it's like, that didn't happen, you know. I grieve continuously my former self. And I'm learning to slowly walk in this new body. You talk about grief, and one of the processes of grief is anger. You know, and I can't even begin to imagine the level of anger that you must feel to have so much snatched away from you. It isn't about vanity. It's the integrity of a human soul. I grieve and I am angry that somebody had the audacity to take away from me what God gave me. I don't care what my face looked like. Everybody's beautiful. It was my face. And God gave me that face. Absolutely.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Christy about what she would like to say to the man who threw acid in her face. And I have a message I want you to hear, and I want you to hear it real well. Before it's over, I'm going to share it with you so that we may be able to stop this from happening again. Stay tuned.
Coming up.
I don't hate him, but God is still working on the inside of me, and I'm gonna forgive him, but I haven't done it yet.
And later.
It's like somebody ripped open my chest and snatched my heart out.
I'm talking with Christy Sims, who is indeed unbroken by the worst day of her life. She was burned alive after her abusive boyfriend threw acid on her face and body. The man who did this was convicted of aggravated assault and was just sentenced to 20 years in prison. When you got the news that he had been sentenced to 20 years, were you in the courtroom?
Yes, I was.
Did it give you closure of any kind?
You know, I don't know if I will ever have closure because what he did to me is a lifelong thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to wake up one day and not be burned and disfigured. And my kids are not just going to heal overnight. I don't know if the pain behind their eyes when they look at me is ever fully going to go away. I hope that it will. But what it did was it made me proud that I fought, that I didn't give up. Because it took 2 years to even go to trial. It took an entire year to even get this guy charged. He wasn't even charged. He was walking around free, physically free, but I doubt you can never be fully free when you hurt a child of God that I know that I am.
You know, one of the things in my mind, because relationships are interesting, this started out as a loving, intimate relationship, so you have all of these memories of tender moments and love and care, and then juxtapose them against this horrific nightmare of a situation. Did you ever get any kind of answer as to why he would do this?
It is so hard to explain evil when you're not evil. So I can't give you a definitive answer, Bishop, but what I will tell you is that at the root of all human dysfunction is insecurity and fear. I was very comfortable in my own skin. I was growing into who God wanted me to be. I had become a counselor and I loved it and I was happy and I was at peace. I had gotten physically fit and he saw me growing and, you know, manifesting into who I was supposed to be and he was just standing still. And I think that frightened him.
And you were starting to break away from the relationship.
I was breaking away from the relationship because the more that I grew, the more that he stood still and the more he tried to pull me back down. He became emotionally and verbally abusive to me because he was trying to keep me in my place.
See, you're going where I want you to go. I want my audience to know that evil wears clothes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
They wear very fine suits.
Yes, yes. See.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's draped in eloquence and romance and poetry and song and dance. And you were deceived initially, but your children were not.
They were not. Let me tell you something. My children told me from day one, Mommy, we don't like him and there's something wrong with him and he is not the one for you. And they were very clear about it. Because he was so nice to me, he sent me flowers and cards and told me he loved me 50 million times a day, that I was beautiful. Every so often he would sneak in and
Some
insult.
meanness and insult.
Yeah, an insult.
What were those moments of meanness that said, there's another guy down inside of him?
I worked in a drug treatment center. I counseled all men, and that was his biggest thing, is that I was around all these men all day. And I keep telling him, it is unethical for me to deal with my clients. I can't be with these men. Chill out. You know what I'm saying? I had always told him, you can't come to my job. You can't come here because it's a secured facility. It's a confidentiality type thing. It's a drug treatment. People don't want you to know they're in drug treatment. And one day he popped up at my job, day before Valentine's Day, and I came into my locked office, which stays locked. Now, it was all these roses and flowers and all of these things. Instead of feeling like a woman should feel, which is, oh my God, my boyfriend brought me flowers, I felt afraid. We talked about how I don't like flowers. I don't like mixing business with pleasure. He wanted to get into my office because he wanted to see the environment of my office. And what he said was, I saw that you put that picture that I told you to put up in your office. Even in my workspace, he was controlling me.
It's part of the pain that you deal with emotionally, that you didn't listen to your own instinct about this?
Exactly. There was this inner voice inside of me that kept saying, run. And we broke up all the time. I was always leaving him. And it wasn't like he was punching me and that's why I was leaving. He was just making me feel uncomfortable. Going through my phone, going through my computer, things that I never did to him and I never did to anyone.
Since you have been through this, has there ever been a moment that you got to confront him? And if you were to confront him, what did you say or what would you say to him?
I had the opportunity to speak with him in my victim impact statement at the end of our trial at sentencing, and I chose not to. I pray for his soul. I don't hate him, but God is still working on the inside of me, and I'm gonna forgive him. But I haven't done it yet. I'm gonna forgive him.
In the process of forgiveness, there's something I want you to do to be free, because forgiveness is a gift you give yourself.
Exactly.
That's the struggle, the midnight thoughts, the reflections, the wonder why everybody around me is seeing this train, as it were, coming down the track at me. How are we doing at forgiving you?
I think that even in this pain, what I'm hoping is that there's some purpose in it. And what I want people to know is that abuse can happen to strong, intelligent women. That it's not a racial issue, it's not a gender issue, it's not a socioeconomic issue, has nothing to do with any of those things. I am a professional counselor, and it happened to me anyway. I don't know if I haven't fully forgiven myself, but I take responsibility for it.
If you were counseling you, was there something that short-circuited your instincts? Like you got validation, he fed some inner need. Talk to me about that.
Yes. All of us, even the confident ones of us, have insecurities. You know, my hips are too big. You know what I mean? When you have somebody in your life that is constantly feeding your ego, telling you how beautiful you are, he had a way of lifting me up and tearing me down, lifting me up and tearing me down. That's a cycle of abuse. I was in it before I was a counselor. See, this started before I was a counselor. I've only been a counselor for a short period of time. So he would praise me, oh, babe, you know, I'm so proud of you for getting your master's degree in counseling, but you know you're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right? You see what I'm saying? How that works? So I feel responsible for, not just as a counselor, but as a woman and as a woman of intelligence who had been in a long relationship, a good relationship, a marriage, for me to put myself in this position. I feel guilty that I let this man even get remotely close to my children, somebody that can hurt me this badly.
You have to wear a mask 20 hours a day. To come out around your children has been difficult. Their friends especially.
Yes.
They react badly.
They don't react badly. It's just a lot of them have seen me on the news. I'm on the local news a lot in Atlanta, so the closest ones are getting accustomed to it. The issue is me having to break my children out of this need to protect me. You know, at that age, they're 12 and 16 years old. They're in that need that needs to be accepted. They're, you know, kids on their bad day, they just might be hateful and say something, oh, well, that's because your mama's burned. You know what I'm saying? And my kids, they try to hide me because they don't want me to be in a position where they have to protect me.
But when they hide you, does it hurt?
Yes, it hurts. It still hurts.
I've got to take a break. More with Christy when we come back.
Tomorrow on TD Jakes.
Their 19-year-old son was given a rough sentence after having consensual sex with an underage girl who lied about her age.
This one experience that has ruined my life.
25 years. That's more years than he's been alive.
Did you cheat on him?
No.
But you did have sexual relationship with somebody outside of your marriage. All of us could be just one event away from having our lives turned upside down.
Tomorrow.
I want to welcome you back. I'm talking with Christy Sims, who is the embodiment of survival. I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for your life. I want to thank you for your legacy. I want to thank you for the things that you are doing to make this world a better place. How much courage does it take for you? Because there are countless women around the world who don't wear short sleeves because they don't like their arms, or don't wear a short skirt because they think their thighs are too big, or want to hide a mole on their face and have all of these crazy insecurities. And you have a real issue to have an insecurity, but have climbed over top of it, and you are on television with the face that was behind a mask because something on the inside pushed you over top of legitimate excuses to come on television. I want you to send a message to every woman out there who doesn't think she's good enough, pretty enough, smart enough, to tell them how to fight over their fears and be the woman they were designed to be.
I think ultimately that is my message. It's a story of domestic violence, but I want people to know that it doesn't matter what size you are. It doesn't matter what scars you have, internal or external. We are all here to manifest the glory of God that is within us. And I'm gonna use my scars to heal other people. They're gonna look at me and say, you know what? I'm okay with myself. Because if she can sit there. I used to cover my arms. I don't cover my arms anymore. I lived behind a veil for an entire year. I wear a mask now to heal my skin, not because I'm trying to hide, to heal my skin. Just a little bit of improvement, and I'm not going to hide myself. I'm going to defy him. What he wanted to do was isolate me and control me. I'm going to do the opposite of that. You're going to see my face all the time. I started a foundation to help other women.
Tell me about the foundation.
Initially, we started the Christy Sims Foundation because we were raising money because my surgeries are so expensive, and I still have so many more to go. But we've turned nonprofit, and so I'm formulating programs to start early. See, the highest rate of abuse is the age between 16 and 24. So you can't start at 30 years old talking about abuse. You got to start young. You got to start before they start developing their own personalities and teach people how to define themselves before they allow other people to define them. And so I'm going to use my background, my foundation, to empower girls and empower boys and to help them build healthy relationships so you don't get to this point. I don't want anybody to be hurt like me.
Absolutely.
I don't want anybody else to go through this.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. I want to give the tools to our audience so that they can understand there was a moment you didn't want people to see you. There was a moment that you drew back and hid. What did you say? I know you talk about overcoming it and showing who you really are, but I want to give them the tools to do that. What did Christy say to herself to take the veil off? What did you say over and over and over again? Because there are all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons who are afraid to be their best self because some voice on the outside or a voice on the inside is saying what you do not have or what you cannot be. Tell me the message you preach to yourself to bring you out and put you back up on your feet unbroken.
I have a mantra that I say every single day, Bishop. I have fear, but fear does not have me. I have anger, but anger does not have me. I have these scars, but these scars do not have me. I am free. I am the master of me.
I couldn't say it any better myself. Thank you very much, very, very much. Okay, I want you to hear me and hear me well. I have a message to you out there. If you are a woman in a situation that we have described today, to all women out there, especially the ones who are suffering and hurting, no man should lay his hands on you. Listen at the warning signs when you see people flipping back and forth, schizophrenic, taking you through all kinds of hell. Stop making excuses for what your instincts are telling you. It is a lie. You have got to believe the truth. When everybody who loves you around you is speaking to you, saying something is wrong, listen. Most importantly, when your inner voice is telling you something is wrong, listen at that voice. Make a plan to get to a safe place. There are domestic violence centers all around you everywhere. Get that hotline number, get to that domestic center, get you and the kids out of the way, do it, and do it right now. We'll be right back.
Next on TD Jakes.
I didn't want to see my child in the casket. I didn't want to see them open up the ground.
I still cry. I want to welcome you back. We're talking to people who are unbroken, even after facing the worst days of their lives. As you watch today's show, I hope you find the strength in their stories. For a parent now, there is no pain greater than the loss of a child. How do you make sense of that which is utterly senseless? Michelle and Clifton Cottom's 11-year-old daughter, Asia, was an A honor student on her way to a field trip with the National Geographic Society when her plane crashed into the Pentagon on September 11th. Since that day 14 years ago, the couple has determined that their little girl's legacy would live on. Their hearts are broken, but their spirit is strong. Would you welcome Michelle and Clifton?
Thank you.
Tell us about your baby.
I'll let you start.
Asia was just a precocious little girl. She loved life. She was a typical little girl. She loved everything girls. Tweety Bird, pocketbook. She was a really smart student. She loved math, science, information technology, and she loved God. She was just so excited about her trip that day. She had...
Excuse me. You forgot to tell her she loved Dad.
Oh, and she loved Dad. She loved Dad. Yeah, she's a daddy's girl. She was just really excited about the trip that she was going on. She was going to be able to swim with the dolphins. That was her favorite thing. Asia was just full of life. She wanted to go to college to be a baby doctor, which we all know is a pediatrician. She had big dreams, big life. That was just Asia.
Right. People often talk about mothers, and they talk about the mother's love for their child. Unfortunately, we live in a country where many women do not know the love of a father. I want you to tell me what it feels like as a man to love your little girl.
Oh, wow. That's
I get
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know, I think she can walk on water. Hey, couldn't do no wrong. If you come and tell me my daughter did something, if I ain't see it, oh, I'm the wrong one.
Right.
I'm the wrong one.
Right.
You might well tell somebody else, no, not my child.
Right.
I know my child don't do nothing like that. And that's how I was.
You went through the second worst day of your life, her funeral. How was that for you as a parent?
Well, the day of the funeral was my birthday, October 21st. So it was rough. It was real rough. And thank God I got a lovely wife and a son and friends and family.
Every time your birthday rolls around, do you think about it?
Oh, yeah. I can't stand Father's Day.
Yeah.
I cannot stand Father's Day. And then when you have another son, your other child, and he wants to do stuff for you, you have to sacrifice.
That's what amazed me about your story, because a lot of times when a couple goes through something that is this devastating, you would think it would draw them together, but more times than not, they go through what is called compassion fatigue, and they don't have the compassion to sustain the relationship, and the relationship falls apart. A lot of times they fall apart because they grieve differently. And one person can't understand why you want to look at the picture all the time. The other person can't stand to see the pictures. Talk to me about that. How did you navigate through the turbulence of grief?
Well, we got two different ways. I go to a gravesite. My wife don't. Never been.
Michelle, why don't you go?
For me, Asia is in my spirit. She's not in that ground. She's not in that flesh. So that's why I don't go. And just moving back a little bit, we actually had two funerals. We had a memorial service, and then they identified her body. And so we had to have the second funeral, and that's what he's talking about. So for me as a mother, I couldn't do that.
You couldn't do it.
I didn't want that memory.
You don't want to relive it.
I didn't want to see my child in the casket. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to see them open up the ground. I didn't want to see them put her casket in that ground. I don't want to see her tombstone. I want to have the memories of her that's in my heart and in my mind.
We're coming up on September 11th. There's bound to be tributes. There's bound to be memorials. There's bound to be news coverage, names called. What is that like for you as parents?
I ain't gonna say hate. I know that's a strong word, but dislike. I really dislike it because every year this time pops around. The media, the neighbors, everybody, and they mean well. They really do. But to me, it's living it back over and over. It's 14 years, going back through the same thing. I still cry.
Sure.
Still go to my little basement, shut the door, because I don't want to, because she might be having a good day. I don't want to mess up her day.
Right. So you don't, that's something that people don't understand. You don't have bad days on the same day.
No,
not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
So you might be having a bad day and he might be trying to flirt. So there you are in a dilemma.
That happened a lot. You know what I mean?
Really? I feel your pain, brother. I feel your pain. Listen, when we come back, we're going to talk more with Michelle and Clifton about how they turn their pain into purpose right after this. Please don't misunderstand what we're talking about. We're not just talking about pain and grief. We're talking about strength in the face of life's greatest adversity. My guests today are unbroken. and they are an inspiration to all of us. Michelle and Clifton Collins' 11-year-old daughter, Asia, tragically died on September the 11th when her plane crashed into the Pentagon. The last words you said to her as you put her on the plane were?
Gave her a hug, gave her a kiss, and she said she'll see me soon.
Do those words come back in your heart and mind?
All the time. You know, you remember the last words you hear from your daughter. So,
Michelle, what is the source of your strength?
My faith in Jesus Christ. But what I will say is that faith was tried and tested when God took Asia. That took some. That was the roughest day of my life.
So I imagine, because there are moments in your life, people think that people who have faith have no doubt.
Ooh, no.
But that's not true, is it?
Not at all.
So the presence of doubt does not negate the power of faith.
No.
Talk to me about the fight between faith and doubt to get you through this process. One voice saying, there couldn't be a God. If there was a God, he'd have been there for you. Or if there is a God, he must be mad at you. The other voice is saying, faith is all I have to hold on to, that I might see her again soon. Talk to me about the fight in your head.
I think the bigger fight was initially, because I'm a woman of God, I didn't think she died. The day of the accident, my secretary ran into my office and she's like, turn on the TV because you can see the planes crashing into the World Trade Center. And I said, wait a minute, my daughter's on a plane somewhere. But it never crossed my mind that the God that I serve would allow my daughter to die.
So when your faith went up under crisis, was there something that kind of restored your faith or renewed you? Take me through that.
When I told God that I was angry, and I said, God, I am pissed with you.
Right.
You know, I'm doing all
That's
that.
not exactly prayer language to those of you. To those of you who don't go to church, let me educate you. That doesn't come with the catechism, okay?
Not at all. Not at all. But because he knew that was the only thing, because I was in excruciating pain. It's like somebody ripped open my chest and snatched my heart out. So that was, I mean, and it didn't happen overnight. It took me a long time. I couldn't read a Bible. I couldn't, none of that. And I mean, I went to church only to keep from falling apart. I just had to express that anger.
Quickly, there was a turning point where you took that pain and turned it into power. You developed a scholarship fund in Asia's name. Tell us about that, and tell us what you get out of contributing to the lives of other children.
We send children to school for science, math, and information technology because those are the things that Asia likes. Asia wanted to go to school, so we get joy out of sending other people's children to school.
That's a wonderful thing. Isn't that beautiful? Michelle and Clifton, I want to thank you for telling your story and sharing your daughter with us. If you have just experienced a loss, maybe our village can help. Join the conversation on our Facebook site. Go to it right now and share your story with us. We'll be right back after this.
Coming up on TD Jakes.
What are we seeing?
Avalanche is coming, and that's essentially what I saw coming as well.
Last April 25th, Michael Churchton was at 18,000 feet at the base camp of Mount Everest when he suddenly felt the ground move under his feet. Seeing a 4,000-foot wall of snow and ice barreling down toward him, Michael was certain he was going to die. But Michael is still alive. Would you welcome Michael to be here at Congress? Thank you. How were you on Everest?
I was there shooting a documentary, and I had this dream to just be part of an expedition.
I have never been on an expedition. I've been to Mississippi, but
I was born in Mississippi.
You were born in Mississippi? So I don't understand the crowd. Give me a sense of how many people go on expedition.
We had a particularly large group. So we had, I think, about 14 climbers that were going, 4 guides, a base camp doctor, myself, so there was kind of 20 there, and then there were another 4 truckers that were just going to base camp and coming back. And then once we got to base camp was a staff of about 28 Sherpa.
So base camp is where everybody comes back. It's the gathering place. It's where everybody connects. It's the control center for everything.
Yeah.
When you first felt it started, this is a tremendous earthquake. First thought.
As soon as it happened, I was like, earthquake, so I jumped up to grab my camera and start filming, and I jumped. All right, you know, I'm a
I'm gonna take a
filmmaker.
picture
I'm like,
of this. You know.
I'm there to make a documentary, you know.
Yeah.
So we all started looking up at the Kumbu ice fall, which is kind of in front of us here.
And all of a sudden, there's a wall of snow and ice?
Well, what ends up happening is, so it's still, the earth is shaking, so it starts off a little mellow, and then it just gets violent, where it's very hard to even stand. You know, I can just feel it. So I'm filming, as I'm looking up and filming at the...
You're still filming, you got your camera.
Yeah, I got the camera.
See it.
Yeah, and so it's like, I'm like, it's shaking.
That would not be my reaction. I think you have a video from that mountain. I want to show this video. I want you to see this, because if it would have been me, there wouldn't have been no video, nothing. Camera would have went up in the air, feet would have been running. Take a look at this video. What are we seeing?
Avalanche is coming, and that's essentially what I saw coming as well. You know, the biggest part was, at least from my perspective, you know, there's a mountain behind that's about 4,000 feet high, and it was eclipsed by this thing coming. And when I saw it, it was just kind of a surprise of that this is going to hit us, you know?
Are you okay? Yeah. You all right? Yeah.
I think I said the word Jesus, you know, but I wasn't praying. I was just an exclamation, you know, but maybe I should have been. And a guy next to me, he's a Vietnam vet from Australia. He's already on the ground just from training, and he's there. Another kid next to me, Davi, he started running, tried to outrun it, got knocked down right in a perfect spot, so he was safe. Our base camp doctor, Eve, I believe she was in a tent, and I don't exactly know what happened, but we didn't see her after the avalanche hit.
When that happened, you thought you were going to die?
Yeah, I had just seen how fast the ice and rock was coming, and it was fast, you know? I mean, I think later they said it was coming about 130 miles an hour. I was hit with like a wind blast and busted me into the rocks, so I ended up breaking bones all through here and my nose, and I had, you know, a lot of blood. 90 seconds later, you can kind of still see some snow going by, and then it just is quiet. And then I reached for my camera, because I was like, I got to start filming.
Michael, you're losing me with this camera. I would have reached for my hind end. Is it still there, Lord? You reached for your camera?
Yeah, I reached for it, and I found it strange that it was exactly where I left it, you know? It was covered in snow. I had some blood coming from my face. We're at Everest Base Camp, where it's going to be negative 20 degrees in 2 hours.
So you survived the earthquake, but the question remains, can you survive till help comes?
Well, yeah, I mean, we really didn't know what to do, so they put us into a tent. We were there for about 15 minutes, and then the base camp manager, Bola, is like, you will go to Gork Shep, and Gork Shep is a town. You need to go there because, you know, we don't have anything to take care of you guys here. So, you know, get up and start soldiering and do the, you know, kind of felt like a Bhutan death march. And what normally takes an hour took me 4 hours of just one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. The mission is to get there, and then you're safe.
So you're a survivor. Your face is bleeding. It's cold, and you're trying to get back to safety. How did that happen?
We did the hike back to Gork Shep, so we get there, and fortunately there was some medical personnel that had been actually just on a trek, and so they ended up treating my wounds and kind of just basically wiping off the blood and stuff like that. So once we were there, you know, I felt a little bit of relief. You know, there wasn't really any painkillers, so I had ice to just kind of keep on my face because it was pretty much swollen up. You know, I was, you know, fortunate that there was a climber from another group. His boss basically called and was like, I'm getting you a helicopter, I'm getting you out of there now. And he's like, I got 2 extra seats. So he grabbed me and my friend Ron, and he's like, you guys want to go with me? And then flew us out down to Kathmandu.
Tell me about how you felt on the flight. At what point did you feel safe?
It was the moment we took off. I mean, as soon as we took off, I like, you know, hit Ron like this, and I was like...
That's when you grabbed your hand.
That was, yeah.
Okay.
That was like, oh, I mean, it's still a dangerous flight because there's clouds and mountains, but it was just like, wow, like we're out of there.
How are you changed?
I think I'm definitely changed. It's like trying to find purpose, trying to make sure that the moments you have are are important, and just kind of renewed purpose. I mean, you know, I'm working on a documentary.
You're focused.
Yeah, it's like this has to get done. And
Focus on this documentary. What makes you want to do it? Because we were just talking about some people don't ever want to go back to the site. They don't want to remember it again. You want it to replay again in this documentary. What made you decide to do that?
I mean, I think watching the footage was just a really great therapy, honestly, because it was such a fun adventure. And I had been so concentrated on those last terrifying moments and kind of that survivor's guilt of like, why did I make it? Why didn't my friend make it? You know, like who decides those things? And
you know, that's the thing about trauma. So many times we focus on the event of our trauma, what happened in that moment, that we forget all the good things that happened before. You remember 9/11, but you forget who Asia was before. You remember the moment that the acid hits your face, but you need to reflect beyond that to the moments that happened before and say the whole journey wasn't this. This was a part of it, but the whole journey was not this. I hope you're getting something out of this. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I've got to thank Michael because I'll probably never be on Mount Everest in an avalanche. And if I do, don't expect any footage from me at all. I'll be right back after this.
Tomorrow on TD Jakes.
Their 19-year-old son was given a rough sentence after having consensual sex with an underage girl who lied about her age.
This one experience, it has ruined my life.
25 years. That's more years than he's been alive.
Did you cheat on her?
No.
But you did have sexual relationship with somebody outside of your marriage. All of us could be just one event away from having our lives turned upside down.
Tomorrow.
My final thoughts are very simple. We're talking about people who remained unbroken, facing the worst day of their life. Maybe you're facing the worst day of your life right now. Maybe you're going through tests that seem so intimidating that you wonder, can you survive? All of my guests have been to hell and back, but they did come back. Their testimonies are monuments of proof to you that whatever you're dealing with right now, you can survive past that day and see the dawning of another day. I want to thank all of my guests for being here. Thank you for your life and for your legacy, and thank you for turning your scars into stars. Would you appreciate my guests? Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.